The Turning, new adaptation of Turn of the Screw, famously filmed The Innocents in 1960. This is directed by Florio Sigismondi, who made The Runaways, not The Runaways that's recently in cinemas, but the one about the band, The Runaways. Script by Chad and Kerry Hayes, and executive produced by Steven Spielberg, with a cast that includes Mackenzie Davis, Finn Wolfhard, Brooklyn Prince, who, of course, was so brilliant in The Florida Project, the young girl in The Florida Project. So good pedigree. Mackenzie Davis is Kate. We first meet her visiting her mother in a mental institution. She has accepted a post as a nanny to a young girl in a remote house. I think it's in Maine. When she gets there, she meets the housekeeper, played by Barbara Martin, with an angular haircut and a supremely creepy demeanour, who tells her that the children are better than she is. Here is a clip.
Have you ever been a nanny?
This is my first live-in job.
Well, I hope you know what you're doing. The children are very special, Kate. They're thoroughbreds.
Geez, your friends must love it here.
I have no friends.
You have no friends?
Yep.
Well, you have one now.
Maybe.
May I ask how the parents died?
Well,
Miles?
Nothing should have to suffer. It's not that simple.
So sort of compilation clip there, but it gives you a sense of the tone of the film. So Miles is a nasty piece of work who, at the beginning, she thinks she's just going to be looking after the young girl, but then it turns out that Miles is being sent home from school because he's attacked somebody. And he's got a kind of a touch of the we need to talk about Kevin's about him. Flora, meanwhile, is bouncy and joyous, and as you know, Kimberly Prince, we saw that in Florida Project, kind of bundle of energy. And she is an extraordinary actor. But the more time that Kate spends with the kids, the more she suspects something creepy is going on, not least because the house is absolutely full of the kind of bangs and crashes and creaks that says something creepy is going on. There's an east wing that you mustn't go into, which is the whole house is full of mannequins that seem to have been specifically designed to be scary and creepy. Like, oh yes, that's just, there happens to be a mannequin with a whole bunch of needles stuck into it. Don't mind that at all. So the film starts well, middles less well, and then completely falls apart in the third act. And after I'd seen it and been quite bamboozled by its descent from quite interesting into really all over the place, found this out. Began life in 2016 as a film called Haunted, directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, who made Intacto and 28 Weeks Later. And Alfred Woodard was in it. And the original script was rewritten by Scott Z. Burns, and apparently very shortly before it was meant to be shot, Steven Spielberg himself pulled the plug on it because the rewrites had changed the script so much. There was then a new version written of the old script, a sort of polish on the old script, and then a new director brought in. The film was then in the can by April 2018 and was originally set to open in February 2019, which is a year ago, and it's now slipping out to cinemas with very little fanfare, despite a promising setup and a couple of good performances, because it is a total mess. Crucially, it's not scary. And if you don't believe me, watch, the 1960s, 61 version. I mean, the difference is kind of like the difference between the Wolf Rilla Village of the Damned and the Jonathan Carpenter Village of the Damned. One of them is black and white and creepy as hell and very understated, and the other is overblown and noisy and not in the least bit frightening. Also, the other thing is the film tries to do ambiguity, and one of the ways in which it tries to do ambiguity is by bifurcating the story at one point. So you get kind of alternative...
Explain what that means?
Splitting the story in two.
Okay.
It's not really... I mean, it's a very literal idea of ambiguity. And without spoiling it, suffice to say that it has two endings and no ending. And it was one of those things that when the film actually ended... I was not alone in the cinema going, what? It stopped.
So it's got two endings, but
two endings, but no ending.
But they don't provide closure.
Yeah, that's a very, very polite way of saying it. It's a real shame because it starts out, you think, okay, this is going to be interesting and there's going to be some stuff in here and I like this story, and then it just all spectacularly falls apart. And I would pretty much guarantee that in some cinemas there are going to be people going out and going, what happened to the last reel? I mean, with the exception of the fact that the credits are running, there are going to be people going, what happened to the... There's an not Alfred, Pewin, what's he called? Not somebody Pewin, who's an exploitation filmmaker, who made a film that I saw at a horror festival in which the whole film leads up to a battle and then they run out of money. So the battle just doesn't happen. It's literally Albert Pewin. Albert Pewin? God, my brain.
It will come to you.
It'll come to me.
As soon as we're off air, it'll come to you.
Anyway, so
what's that? That's The Turning.